Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Ruslan G YouTube channel. If it's your first time to the channel, welcome. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Zoom. And if you haven't heard of this company, you've come to the right place, because in this video, we're going to dive into every single thing that makes this company amazing or not, right? We're going to talk about both sides of the spectrum. I don't want to spoil too much in the intro, so without further ado, let's zoom on into Zoom. All right, so if you haven't been here before, you probably don't know, but I like to do the website as kind of the first introductory part of the video, so that way you guys get familiarized with what this company is all about and how they sell their products and all that type of stuff. So as you can see from the screen here, this is Zoom, and I'm just gonna kind of scroll through the website so you guys get a feel of what the website brings. And this is actually very, very important, and I see not a lot of analysts doing this, because this, in my opinion, is one of the most important theses of the company, right? As you see what their website is doing, you get an idea of what they're all about. You get to see kind of what they're building, what they're designing for, and who their customers are going to be, right? If you see this website, are you gonna actually want to buy from them? If you see this website, are you actually gonna want to invest with them from an investor perspective, right? So all these things are really important. So as you can see, this is kind of their website. And next I want to talk about Eric Yuan, which happens to be the CEO of Zoom. So Eric Yuan is a Chinese American billionaire, as you can see from his Wikipedia page here, and he is the CEO of Zoom Video Communications, which he owns 22%, and he also is net worth about 22 billion US dollars as of September 2020, and it actually might be more now that the stock price has increased since his network was leaked last. And if you dig in a little bit deeper, he has also worked with Webex, which is a company made by Cisco. We'll get into that a little bit later, but he essentially wanted to create his own, which is now Zoom Video Communications. A fun little fact is he also went to Stanford University alongside with Shandong University of Science and Technology, that was in China. So hopefully you guys get to know him a little bit better as time goes on. Maybe he'll create more new things. He's a brilliant, brilliant person, especially from what people have said about him online and in articles. I don't know him personally, but you can get an idea of who he is and what he's about from his Wikipedia, so go check that out if you have a moment. Next, I wanted to talk about their stock price, because it is so ridiculous. And if you follow the stock market closely, you probably have heard of Zoom Technologies or Zoom Communications, right? This company has been on Kramer's watch list, as you can see, Market Watch watch list, Yahoo Finance, The Motley Fool. It's been in pretty much every big news publication and business page that's out there. And next I want to talk about the stock price. So we're going to go over here into the 1 year category, because that's kind of how long it's been on the public market. And so October 22nd to now, it's been up a total of 790%. And as you can see, it shows here 729%, pretty close there. It's also been down today, so that might also be influencing the price a little bit there. So let's go back to the 1 year, and we're gonna look at this price, right? This is ridiculous. There's no rhyme or reason for this company to be up these levels. I mean, yes, we have the pandemic, and yes, a lot of people are using the telecommunications companies now to do a lot of their schooling and to do a lot of their business meetings, right? And this is replacing a lot of the traditional ways of meeting with people. So this type of information actually gives us a clue as to why this stock is up so much. Now, again, it shouldn't be up this much, right? Even if we double, triple, quadruple the amount of people using online communications platforms, it doesn't reflect that type of growth at all. And if we were to look at that data compared to the stock price, we would see that the stock price has gone up a lot more than the actual consumer numbers for that product, right? The product itself has maybe increased 300-400% in sales, but the stock of Zoom, and this is just one company we're talking about, not all the other competition, we'll get to that in just a second, but this is just one company and it's gone up 700%. So that's a little bit ridiculous. But let's talk about the products, and maybe this will give us a clue as to if this is reasonable or not, right? So here we have the Zoom Meetings products. So if you look here, we have the free, right? This is the host up to 100 participants, 40-minute maximum group meetings, unlimited one-on-one messages. This is perfect for the basic user. Honestly, it's perfect for schools. I would even say it's perfect for business, but of course, they want to make money, right? They don't want to just sell free, even though they probably sell your data here somehow. But here we have the Pro, which is the $149.90 license, which, as you can see, the only big difference here is unlimited group meetings. the social media streaming, and the 1 gig of cloud recording per license. And here we have purchase up to 9 licenses per account. Obviously, there's only a certain amount that you can buy, so that means it's smaller companies. They want smaller companies to use this. And then once you get into these zones, which we're not going to cover too much, you can just read it if you want, but essentially this is what they want you to buy if it's not this, right? They want you to get this, and as you can see, the orange here, that's exactly what they want you to go after, because this is their hottest product next to the free product, right? So that gives you an idea of what Zoom is all about, right? This is pretty much what they sell, right? Of course, there is Zoom Phone, Zoom Video Webinar, we have Zoom Rooms over here as well, but essentially Zoom Meetings is what most businesses use, and there's not really another reason to get any of these other things. This gets the job done. And so now that you have an idea of the products that they serve, right? I want to talk about their PE ratio, because we just talked about their price. Now let's dive into their actual PE ratio, and we'll talk about the market cap a little bit as well, but let's talk about the PE ratio. And as you probably already know, if you follow the technology sector, most of these tech giants do have an elevated PE ratio, but to have a 707 PE ratio, it's kind of high, I would have to say. Even if their products are revolutionary, even if we had, no more in-person interaction, that would be maybe justified, but we don't have that yet. And we honestly probably will never get to that point, right? This is something new. This pandemic thing will go away and people will move back into offices. Maybe not entirely, right? Like not everyone will need an office space. And that's kind of what we're coming to the realization of, is that not everyone needs an office space, but Zoom is not going to replace every single office space in any shape or form, but they will take a lot of that market. So their PE ratio might shrink a little bit because of the fact that they are taking that market cap, but essentially they're worth $160 billion and their PE ratio is extremely elevated, which means that their real intrinsic value isn't really 150 billion. It's probably closer to 1/10 of that, if not less, because of this PE ratio being so high. And so that doesn't really paint the best picture for valuation, as far as I would always buy things that are slightly undervalued or equal to value. And with tech companies, maybe slightly overvalued, but I'm not heavily buying into Zoom right now just because of their valuation, okay? So let's talk about their closest rivals. So Zoom, as you can see here, is at the very top, and we have Cisco, WebEx, and Skype. And of course, there's some others. I'll scroll down here so you can see all of them. If you want to do your own research, that's great. We have LogMeIn, GoToMeeting, BlueJeans, JoinMe, all of these companies you probably have heard of or seen their names, but I'm going to talk about WebEx and Skype specifically because they technically are their closest rivals. I mean, as far as Cisco, they have a lot of money to be investing into this platform because they're not just a video conferencing company, and Skype is the same thing. Skype actually was bought out by Microsoft, but we'll get to that in just a second. So let's talk about Cisco's PE ratio, right? Remember, we just saw Zoom's PE ratio of 707. Let's talk about Cisco's PE ratio. Well, they are a competitor for Zoom, right? So they have a 14.84 PE ratio. That makes them a lot cheaper, right? They also offer a 3.68 dividend, which people love dividends because they don't really have to do anything but keep investing into this company, and then they pay a dividend. They can take that dividend and reinvest it back into the company and make more and more money. So this is a great competitor for them. But also what makes Cisco even more special is that their market cap is 165 billion, which is very close to Zoom's market cap of 157 billion, right? But what's very interesting is Zoom has this as their product line. Meanwhile, Cisco has a huge product line that they offer. They don't just do telecommunications, they do voice communications. They also do hardware, software. So they do all types of things. Meanwhile, their valuation is similar to Zoom's. But again, they are actually close to that intrinsic value versus Zoom, where they're extremely overpriced. Now, of course, if you believe in Zoom in the long term and they're going to take over this competition and they're going to take everyone for a ride for their money, they're going to absolutely dominate this space, well, then maybe Zoom is the one to buy. But let's talk about Cisco. So look at Cisco's revenue. And if you take a look at this, it's been pretty consistent. And that's what you want to see in a big company like this. You want to see consistency. You also want to see growth, which you actually don't see a lot of growth. But the beautiful thing is the Cisco doesn't need to have a massive amount of growth. And it's actually really hard for a company that's pulling in $40 billion a year plus to have consistent growth every single year. So hopefully we see that going forward. But for right now, Cisco doesn't have a lot of growth. Maybe you'll see that next year because of Cisco WebEx. Well, again, that's just going to take some time for us to really test that theory. And next, I want to talk about Skype because Skype is their next closest competitor. Now, as you can see, I have this pulled up. Microsoft actually acquired Skype. So we can get an idea of what Microsoft is doing by looking at Microsoft's financial performance as well. And actually, I want to go back up here and show you guys Microsoft stock. It doesn't really show the best picture for as far as, rivaling Zoom, because the 5-year is closer to what Zoom has done in the 1 year, which might tell you something as far as their valuation goes, because Microsoft is an absolute monster and a great company. But look, if you look all the way back from, the 1986 era when Microsoft first started to now, they've had, a 216,000% increase, right? Of course, that is from 11 cents a share, and pretty much no one owns their original, Microsoft shares. If they did buy back here, they probably sold here, they could have sold here, they could have sold here, but they probably didn't hold it as long as they probably would have liked to. But because there's not a lot of clear data from, when they acquired Skype and exactly, how did that influence their overall price, because they're such a big corporation, we're not going to look at that either. We're going to just look at the financial performance. So we can see here, they have been on a steady increase. And again, Microsoft has a lot of different products that they offer. They don't just offer Skype as one of their products, right? But what we can defer from this is, are they increasing the revenue? And the answer is yes. And do they have enough money to outlast Zoom? Well, maybe, but in order to know that, we must look at Zoom's financial report. And that's what I'm going to pull up next. And so here we have Zoom's financial report. Look, this is annual. So we have 2017. This is pre-pandemic, and boom. And here we have Zoom during pandemic. And as you can see here, they haven't been netting anything up until the pandemic, and maybe a little bit in 2019, and a tiny yellow line, orange line right here in 2018. But overall, 2020 was their biggest year. And what's nice is they've actually had a really good growth period right here, 2017 through now. As you can see, they have had a consistent increase in total revenue, right? You can see that year over year, they're 88%. And as they should, because they are the leader in software for conference calls, right? They are the leader currently. And that also is very vivid, of course, in their stock price. You can see 700% returns in a year. That is absolutely ridiculous. And so the last question that I have for you guys is, do you see yourself buying Zoom stock? Do you own Zoom stock? When did you buy in? Did you have a nice ride? If you bought in pretty much at any point in the last 6-12 months, you are up a drastic amount, and you're outbeating the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones by a huge margin. Even from down here, which is March 23rd, the worst day that we've had in the S&P 500, if we scroll forward to now, it's only a 53% return, right? 53, and that's if you were able to guess the bottom. With Zoom, it doesn't even matter when you would have bought it. It doesn't matter if you bought it, in March as well, which is right back here, March 23rd, right? 24th, it looks like, March 24th to now is 311%. That's incredible. So now my question for you is, are you buying Zoom? Are you selling Zoom? Again, this is not financial advice. I'm just pointing out the facts, and I'm just here to make a claim that maybe it's overpriced, and maybe the fact of the matter is, and that the PE ratio gives us some clarity on what the price maybe should be versus, what it is right now. And again, if you are looking 10, 15, 20 years into the future, and you can say, okay, clearly Zoom is going to innovate. Clearly Zoom is going to be that leader in communications. That's it. There's no other company, right? If they were going to go purely telecommunications, everything to do with that, I would say very confidently that maybe they should be worth this, ridiculous price value of $547, and they should be up, 730%. But in my opinion, right now, there is too much competition. As we can see, Microsoft is a huge company, right? They are worth $1.6 trillion as I'm making this video. They are destroying Zoom. They could buy out Zoom and just, you'd forget all about it, right? Just like they bought Skype. Cisco It's the same story. They are the exact same price as Zoom as far as market cap goes, but their intrinsic value is there. If Cisco had that PE ratio of 700, then Cisco's stock price would be hovering around $2,000 per share. And again, if you looked at their 1 year, you would say, oh man, this company is going down, down, down. But yet again, they offer so many different products, including Cisco WebEx, that if they can prioritize selling that brand, if they can sell Cisco WebEx to the people that use Zoom for video conferencing, for schooling, video conferencing for business, then Cisco would have a huge advantage in this space. But again, it's gonna take some time because Zoom is so planted into that space already that it's gonna be hard to dig them out, right? And same thing with Microsoft and Skype. And Microsoft could just buy Zoom. But are they? No, they probably won't. They probably don't want to. It doesn't make sense. It also would cost them a lot more money, especially with the price valuation Zoom is at. It doesn't make sense. But what they could do is they can compete. And when they compete, they can make Zoom very cheap. And then at some point or another, they can buy Zoom out at a very inexpensive price. And it might not be Microsoft. It could be Apple. It could also be Google. It could be so many different companies with the opportunity to buy Zoom if they wanted to. But again, the valuations would have to come down. And honestly, in order for me to buy in long term, I need to see the valuation come down. It needs to correct. It needs to show some intrinsic value. I cannot buy in at a 700 PE ratio. That is the same reason why I'm not buying Shopify. And obviously, like I said earlier, I do own Zoom in one of my ETFs, but that's about it. I'm not buying the stock itself. In my opinion, it's heavily overpriced. And again, that is just my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. If you got some value from this video, go smash the like button if you haven't already. And I very, very much appreciate you doing so because it does help out the YouTube algorithm and it allows me to make more content like this for you guys. And if you know someone that can gain some value from this type of content, go share this with a friend either on Facebook or Instagram, on Twitter, whatever it may be. And I hope you got some major amount of value from this as well. And go check out my other videos. I'm gonna link them up here. And without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.